Ancient trade routes hold secrets that defy simple explanation. For centuries, merchants traversing the paths to and from India carried more than just spices and silk. They transported objects of profound mystery. This journey uncovers 50 of the most puzzling artifacts ever found along these routes, items that have baffled the brightest historians and archaeologists with their strange designs and unknown purposes. By the end, you'll possess a new understanding of the ancient world's hidden complexities and the incredible exchanges that shaped our history. How did a compass work without any magnets, and why does a 2,000-year-old sculpture seem to change its expression before your eyes? What single object from the past would you most want to unravel the mystery of? A small, square stone seal from the Indus Valley presents a mystery that has endured for thousands of years. Carved with the figure of a mythical beast and a short line of symbols, this object was one of the first great puzzles found along the ancient trade routes. The script etched into its surface remains completely undeciphered, a language lost to time despite countless attempts to crack its code. Was it a merchant's personal signature, a religious talisman, or a form of administrative record-keeping? Found scattered from the ruins of great cities to distant ports, these seals suggest a sophisticated system of communication we can no longer understand. A silent whisper from a civilization that mastered trade long before written history began. From the same ancient city of Mohenjo-daro comes a second enigma, a bronze figurine of a dancing girl. She stands with one hand on her hip, her body adorned with bangles captured in a moment of effortless grace. Yet her anatomical proportions are subtly unusual, her limbs elongated and stylized in a way that continues to spark debate. Was she a depiction of a real performer, a ritual object, or perhaps an early example of artistic idealism? Her very presence so far from the Indian subcontinent, discovered in Mesopotamian sites, confirms she was a valued trade item. But what did she represent to those who carried her across deserts and seas? She is not merely a statue, she is a question about what ancient cultures valued enough to transport across the known world. Then there is the terracotta tablet that challenges our view of ancient mythology. It shows a single, powerful creature with a robust body and a single, forward curving horn on its head, an image we now call the Indus Valley unicorn. This beast appears on thousands of seals and tablets, more frequently than any other animal, yet no one knows what it truly represents. Is it a purely mythical symbol, a stylized version of an auroch or another now extinct animal, or does it point to a creature forgotten by science? The sheer number of these unicorn tablets found along trade routes indicates it held immense cultural and perhaps even economic significance, a logo for an entire civilization that we can see but cannot read. These three objects, the silent seal, the dancing girl, and the mysterious unicorn, form the foundational layer of a much deeper mystery. They are the opening arguments in a long debate between the past and the present, proving that from the very beginning, the trade routes of India were highways not just for goods, but for ideas and identities we are still struggling to comprehend. Far out in the Arabian Sea, near the coast of Gujarat, lay a navigational instrument that should not have existed. It was a complex astrolabe, a disc of bronze etched with intricate star charts and calibrated rings, but its design was centuries ahead of what historians believed possible for that era. This was not a simple tool for telling time. It was a sophisticated device for calculating latitude on the open ocean, a testament to a level of scientific exchange that rewrites our understanding of ancient seamanship. The merchants sailing these waters were not just following the coastline, they were navigating by the stars with a technology so advanced it would not be seen again in Europe for hundreds of years. How did this knowledge travel, and who were the masterminds behind its creation? This single object proves the trade routes were conduits for revolutionary ideas, not just material goods. Further south, on the beaches of Tamil Nadu, a hoard of Roman coins tells a different kind of story. They are silver denarii bearing the faces of emperors, but each one has been stamped a second time with a strange countermark, a local symbol punched right over the imperial portrait. This was an act of profound economic and cultural statement. It was not enough to simply use Roman currency. The local Tamil kingdoms felt the need to assert their own authority, to literally mark these foreign coins as their own. This practice reveals a powerful, independent economy that interacted with Rome not as a subordinate, but as an equal partner, reshaping the money that came to its shores to fit its own system of value and control. Perhaps the most tactile mystery comes from the wreck of a trading vessel, its hull filled with amphorae, those distinctive Roman jars. But when scientists analyzed the residues inside, they found something unexpected. It was not wine or olive oil as was typical. The chemical signature matched no known substance from that time. It was an unknown resin, a lost perfume, or perhaps a medicinal compound that has since vanished from the historical record. This unknown cargo is a ghost of commerce, a silent testament to the vast range of materials that were once deemed valuable enough to ship across the world, commodities whose very purpose we can only guess at. Together, these maritime marvels paint a picture of an ancient world far more interconnected and technologically sophisticated than we often assume. They speak of ships that sailed with advanced instruments, of ports where empires negotiated economic power, and of holds filled with wonders we have yet to fully name. Deep within a Buddhist stupa in Andhra Pradesh, a relic casket was unearthed that spoke in many tongues. It was a small, ornate container meant to hold the sacred remains of a revered teacher, but its true mystery lay on its surface. Inscriptions were carved in multiple languages, including Prakrit and an early form of Tamil, a deliberate effort to speak to pilgrims and traders from many lands. This was not an object meant for one isolated community. It was a spiritual beacon designed for a cosmopolitan world. Its very creation suggests that the trade routes were also pathways for faith, and that the merchants carrying such relics were more than businessmen. They were missionaries of a sort, spreading complex ideas across cultural boundaries. Why would a single casket need to address so many different people unless the faith it represented was actively engaging with a diverse and mobile population? It stands as physical proof of a dialogue between cultures, frozen in metal and script. In a completely different spiritual tradition, we find a Hindu lingam crafted from a single, flawless piece of crystal. When light passes through this object, it does not simply shine. It fractures into a spectrum of colors in a way that seems almost calculated. The refraction pattern is peculiar, creating a small, radiant halo that appears to emanate from within the stone itself. In a temple lit only by oil lamps or the morning sun, the effect would have been breathtaking, a visible manifestation of the divine. The mystery is not just its beauty, but its purpose. Was this a deliberate use of optical science by ancient artisans who understood the properties of crystal, a way to create a miracle of light for worshippers? This object transcends mere ritual. It becomes a tool for awe, an engineered experience designed to solidify belief and demonstrate a connection to a higher power through the manipulation of natural law. Then there is the serene Jain sculpture of a Tirthankara, a spiritual victor, seated in perfect meditation. At first glance, it appears standard, but a closer look reveals symbols carved at its base that are not found in any known Jain text. These are not the typical auspicious signs, but unique, enigmatic motifs. Their meaning is completely lost. Were they the personal signature of a specific sect, a visual representation of a philosophical concept that was never written down, or perhaps a coded message meant only for initiates? The presence of such a unique object along a trade route is profoundly telling. It suggests that the exchange of religious ideas was not monolithic, that there were variations, secret teachings, and localized interpretations of faith that were carried from one community to another, only to vanish from memory later. These three relics, the multilingual casket, the luminous lingam, and the coded sculpture, reveal that the trade in spiritual objects was as complex and nuanced as the trade in spices or silks. They were not just articles of belief, they were instruments of conversion, wonder, and secret knowledge, moving along the same roads that carried the wealth of empires. High on a wall in the Ajanta caves, a fragment of a fresco depicts a man whose very presence is a question. He wears a tunic and trousers, a style of dress completely foreign to the local climate and culture. His features are distinct, his attire more suited to the steppes of Central Asia than the heart of India. This is not a mistake by the artist, it is a portrait of a visitor, a traveler who walked the trade routes and whose likeness was immortalized in this sacred space. The artistic technique is masterful, using local minerals and methods to capture a foreign subject, a clear record of a cultural exchange painted directly onto the rock. Who was this man, and why was he considered important enough to be included in such a significant spiritual sanctuary? He is a ghost of an interaction, proof that the caves were not isolated monasteries but vibrant hubs connected to a wider, moving world. From a different kingdom comes a more personal and puzzling object, a bronze mirror from the Kushan era. Its surface is polished to a high sheen, but it does not reflect a true image. Instead, it warps and distorts the face of anyone who looks into it, creating a funhouse effect that seems deliberate. Why would anyone create a mirror that does not show a clear reflection? Was it a ritual object meant to show the viewer a distorted, spiritual self rather than their physical form? Perhaps it was a tool for entertainment or even an early psychological experiment in perception. The craftsmanship is exceptional, indicating this was a valued item, not a flawed reject. Its very existence challenges our assumption that mirrors were always meant for vanity, suggesting they could have held a deeper, more enigmatic purpose in the ancient world. Finally, a set of ivory combs, delicate and intricately carved, presents a narrative we can no longer read. They were practical objects used for grooming, but their surfaces are etched with elaborate scenes of heroes battling creatures that do not appear in any known mythology. The stories are vivid and dramatic, yet they are completely unfamiliar. These were not mass-produced items. Each comb was a unique piece of art, likely commissioned by someone of wealth and status. They represent a lost folklore, tales that were important enough to be carved into a personal belonging and carried along trade routes, only for the stories themselves to fade from memory while the objects remained. Each stroke of the artisan's tool was a preservation of a myth that has now vanished, leaving behind only the imagery without the plot. Together, these artistic anomalies reveal a layer of interaction that goes beyond commerce. They show us the faces of the travelers, the curious minds experimenting with perception, and the stories that were shared and then lost. They prove that art was the ultimate chronicler of a connected ancient world, capturing not just beauty, but the constant, puzzling flow of people and ideas. A copper plate grant from the Satavahana period bears the weight of a legal transaction, a deed of land gifted by a king. Its main text is clear, written in a known Prakrit language, but running along its edge is a second set of characters, a script that has stubbornly resisted all attempts at translation. This is not a random scribble, it is a formal, deliberate inscription that exists alongside the understandable text. Was it the signature of a witness from a foreign land, a secret royal code, or perhaps a ritual blessing meant to sanctify the grant with a power beyond ordinary words? The presence of this unknown script on an official document suggests that multiple linguistic communities coexisted and participated in the highest levels of administration and commerce. It forces us to question who was really in the room when history was being written down. Centuries later and far to the north, a simple potsherd, a broken piece of everyday pottery, was unearthed. Scratched onto its surface is a form of graffiti that sent a shock through the archaeological world. The symbols bear a startling resemblance to the ancient and undeciphered Indus Valley script, yet this potsherd dates from a period over 1,000 years later. How could a writing system vanish for millennia only to reappear on a common part? Was this a coincidence, a folk memory of a forgotten script being doodled by someone who had seen ancient artifacts? Or does it point to a cultural thread, a hidden lineage of knowledge that persisted in pockets long after the great Indus cities fell? This humble fragment challenges the very timeline of writing in the subcontinent, suggesting that the past holds onto its secrets in the most unassuming of places. Then there is the stone pillar standing tall in a field, its surface covered in a proud proclamation. The inscription speaks of a great king, his victories, and his piety, but it also mentions by name a magnificent city that funded his campaigns, an urban center of immense wealth. The problem is, no city by that name appears on any other map or in any other text from that era. It is a ghost city, lost to history except for this single stone reference. Archaeologists have scoured the region, following clues from the inscription, but the city has never been found. Was the inscription boasting about a place that was destroyed shortly after, or is it a metaphorical name for a confederation of towns? The pillar does not just record history, it actively hides a piece of it, daring us to find a metropolis that has vanished without a trace. Each of these inscribed objects is a locked door. The copper plate shows us a world of multiple, simultaneous truths. The potsherd hints at cultural echoes that refuse to die. The pillar stands as a monument to a history we know is missing. They are not just puzzles, they are proof that the written record is itself a fragile and deeply mysterious artifact. A set of bronze surgical instruments excavated from an ancient trade hub carries the weight of a medical revolution. These were not crude blades, but specialized tools for intricate procedures described in the Sushruta Samhita, an ancient text on surgery. There were scalpels for precise incisions, forceps for extracting objects, and probes for examining wounds. The puzzle is not just their existence, but their distribution. How did such specialized medical technology become standardized and spread along trade routes? Were there traveling surgeons offering their services in bustling market towns? Or were these instruments traded as coveted knowledge themselves, carried by merchants who understood their value beyond mere metal? Their design is so refined that it forces us to reimagine these trade hubs not just as centers of commerce, but as early nodes of scientific exchange where the human body itself was a frontier for innovation. Further south, in Karnataka, a water clock mechanism made of interlocking bronze gears presents a different kind of engineering mystery. This was not a simple vessel that dripped water to mark the hours. Its gears are oddly shaped with teeth cut at irregular angles, suggesting it measured time in variable units, perhaps adjusting for the changing length of daylight throughout the year. Why would an ancient society need such a complex and portable timepiece? It may have been used by merchants to coordinate caravans, by priests to time rituals with celestial events, or by administrators to standardize transactions across a vast network. The very complexity of its design implies a society deeply invested in quantifying time, not as a simple flow, but as a variable force to be managed and understood, a concept we often associate with much later periods in history. Then there is the humble yet revolutionary weaving tool, a terracotta spindle whorl found amidst the ruins of a port city. At first glance, it is unremarkable, but its precise weight and perfectly centered hole indicate it was engineered for high-speed spinning, capable of producing thread of an exceptionally fine and consistent quality. This small object is a key to a much larger economic mystery. It suggests the production of textiles far more delicate and complex than previously assumed, fabrics that could have been highly sought after in foreign markets. Was this tool a local invention that gave a particular community a competitive edge, or was its design itself an import, refined and perfected through contact with other weaving traditions along the trade routes? This simple piece of clay hints at an industrial secret, a technological advantage that fueled the demand for Indian cloth across the ancient world. Together, the surgeon's scalpel, the complex clock, and the perfected spindle reveal a world where trade moved not only finished goods, but the very tools of progress, spreading innovation from the operating theater to the marketplace and the home. A delicate gold necklace unearthed from a merchant's tomb holds a secret that only the sun can reveal. Its beads, crafted from a unique alloy of gold and copper, shift in color from a warm yellow to a deep rose when exposed to direct sunlight. This is not a trick of the light, but a deliberate property of the metal itself, a result of a thin layer of corrosion that forms and reforms. The ancient artisans who made this necklace understood materials science on an intuitive level, creating a personal ornament that was alive, changing with the wearer's journey from shadow into light. Was it a symbol of transformation, a way to mark the passage of the day, or simply a stunning display of wealth and technical prowess? This necklace was more than jewelry. It was a dynamic work of art, its beauty tied directly to the movement of the heavens. From the intimacy of adornment, we move to the mystery of preservation. A small, lidded cosmetic container carved from soapstone was found with its contents still intact. But when chemists analyzed the residues inside, they found a complex mixture of plant oils, tree resins, and mineral powders that matches no known recipe from antiquity. This was not a simple perfume or a common salve. Its purpose is completely lost. Was it a medicinal balm for a specific ailment, a sacred ointment for ritual use, or perhaps an early form of sunscreen for merchants crossing harsh deserts? The care taken to seal this substance away, to carry it on a long journey, speaks to its immense value to its owner. We are left with the ghost of a recipe, a formula for an effect we can no longer comprehend, locked inside a container meant for personal care. And then there is the child's toy, a simple terracotta animal on wheels that holds a mechanical surprise. When pulled along, it does not just roll, it bobbles its head from side to side in a charming, lifelike motion. A hidden counterweight and a cleverly placed axle inside the hollow body create this unexpected movement. This is not a static figurine, it is an early example of kinetic art designed purely for delight. The mystery is not just its cleverness, but its journey. What child played with this along the trade routes, and did the laughter it inspired in one land echo in another, thousands of miles from its point of origin? This object, perhaps the most personal of all, reminds us that amidst the grand exchanges of empires, there were also the simple, human moments of play and wonder, engineered into clay and set in motion for a child we will never know. A broken piece of common pottery hides a map of the known world. This shard, likely from a large storage vessel, is glazed with a schematic network of lines and dots, a clear representation of trade routes connecting distant cities and ports. The accuracy of some distances is startlingly precise. Was this a merchant's personal reference, a teaching tool for apprentices, or a decorative piece celebrating the reach of a powerful trading guild? Its creation required a master artisan to fire the map directly into the clay, a permanent record of complex geographical knowledge that was considered vital enough to be baked into the very containers that carried the wealth of empires. This single piece of broken crockery is a frozen snapshot of ancient globalization. From a guide for the journey, we turn to a sound from the past. A terracotta figurine of a bird, hollowed and crafted with two small holes, produces a clear, melodic whistle when blown into. This was no simple toy. The pitch and tone are consistent, the result of careful calculation of the chamber's volume and the placement of the apertures. In a world without recorded music, such an object could have been a signal device for shepherds or merchants on the move, a ritual instrument for ceremonies, or a cherished source of music in a quiet home. The skill required to shape the clay to produce a specific note speaks to a deep understanding of acoustics, turning earth and fire into a controlled and beautiful sound that once echoed along caravan trails. The final ceramic mystery is a massive storage jar discovered perfectly sealed with a thick plug of wax. The seal was so effective that when archaeologists carefully opened it, the air inside rushed out with a hiss, and the contents, a mix of seeds and spices, were found perfectly preserved. The wax itself was a complex blend of tree resins and beeswax, a recipe designed to create an airtight barrier that could withstand centuries. What was so valuable that it required this level of preservation for a long journey? Were these seeds for planting new crops in foreign lands, or a rare spice blend destined for a royal table? The jar does not answer why its contents were never used, leaving us with a perfectly preserved shipment, a moment in trade frozen forever, waiting for a recipient who never came. A bronze weight shaped like a mythical macaura, part crocodile and part elephant, should have been a standard measure for merchants, yet its own mass is a contradiction, fluctuating slightly with every weighing on a sensitive scale. This was not a flawed casting, but a deliberate feature. The creature is hollow, containing a small, free-moving object sealed inside, a hidden counterweight that ensured its measure was never perfectly constant. Who would create such an unreliable standard, and why? Perhaps it was a teaching tool for apprentices, demonstrating the very nature of variance, or maybe it was a subtle tool for a tax collector, a way to adjust value in a transaction that only the owner could predict. This beast was more than a weight, it was a question of fairness cast in metal. From this ambiguous measure, we find a silver ingot whose surface is a crowded marketplace of symbols. Stamped into its shiny surface are the official marks of 3 different empires, a Roman eagle, a Parthian archer, and a local Tamil punch mark. This bar of raw wealth was not bound to a single kingdom's economy. It was a universal token, accepted and verified across vast distances. Its very existence suggests a level of financial interoperability that feels startlingly modern. Merchants did not need to melt down and re-mint currency at every border. They could carry this multi-stamped silver as a guaranteed form of value, a testament to a network of trust that spanned the ancient world. The final metallic mystery defies nature itself. It is an iron blade recovered from a site that should have turned it to dust centuries ago. The metal shows not a single speck of rust, its edge still sharp enough to catch the light. The secret is not magic, but a lost recipe in metallurgy. The iron was alloyed with other, unknown elements and treated in a way that created a passive protective layer, a primitive form of stainless steel that has kept the weapon pristine while everything around it decayed. This level of preservation was no accident. It was the pinnacle of a blacksmith's art, a technological marvel that was traded, lost, and has yet to be fully replicated. A single carnelian bead, no larger than a pea, reveals a story carved in impossible detail. The surface shows a miniature hunting scene with a chariot, archers, and fleeing animals, but the true mystery lies in the carving itself. The lines are so incredibly fine that they are nearly invisible to the unaided human eye, details that would require powerful magnification to create. How did an artisan craft such a microscopic masterpiece thousands of years ago? Some theories suggest the use of flawless crystal lenses, while others propose techniques of shadow and light that are now lost. This bead was not mere jewelry, it was a wearable gallery, a testament to a level of precision that feels almost supernatural, its full story hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right angle of light to be told. Then there is the lapis lazuli statuette of a goddess, carved from a single piece of the deep blue stone. In the full light of day, it is a striking figure, but in total darkness it holds a secret. A faint, ethereal glow emanates from within the stone, a soft luminescence that persists long after the lights go out. This is not a trick. Lapis lazuli contains trace minerals that can be weakly phosphorescent, absorbing and slowly re-emitting light. The enigma is whether the ancient carvers knew this, deliberately selecting this specific piece of stone for its ghostly, self-illuminating property. In a dark temple chamber or a moonlit tent, this statue would have truly seemed alive, a divine presence glowing with its own inner light, a miracle of mineralogy engineered for spiritual awe. Perhaps the most personally puzzling of these gemstone gems is a perfectly cut diamond, clear and brilliant, but if you hold it at just the right angle, you can see something suspended inside the stone itself, a tiny inscription. The word is not carved on the surface, it is enclosed within the diamond's crystal lattice. The only way this could happen is if the inscription was made on a smaller seed crystal before the diamond continued to grow around it over millions of years, a natural process that makes human intervention impossible. So how did a word get inside a diamond? The answer remains one of the greatest unsolved puzzles of gemology, a message from the deep earth that defies every law of craftsmanship and time. These three objects, the microscopic bead, the glowing goddess, and the inscribed diamond, represent the pinnacle of nature's artistry and humanity's relentless drive to master it. They were among the most valuable commodities on the ancient trade routes, not just for their beauty, but for the profound, inexplicable mysteries they carried within them. A fragment of silk shimmers with a secret life of its own, woven with a complex, double-sided technique. Its pattern of flowers and vines does not remain static. When you move the cloth, the design subtly shifts, with new elements appearing and others receding as the angle of light changes. This was achieved by using threads of two different colors in the warp and the weft, a method so demanding it would have required a master weaver working for months. The mystery is not just the how, but the why. Was this meant to represent the illusory nature of the material world in a philosophical tapestry? Or was it simply the ultimate luxury, a fabric that was never the same twice, captivating anyone who saw it? This was more than a textile, it was a kinetic illusion woven from thread. Then there is the bolt of cotton, its colors still vibrantly intact, that defies the known history of dye. The deep purple and brilliant green hues have not faded over the centuries, and chemical analysis reveals they were created using organic compounds unlike any other dye sources from that era. The plants or minerals used to produce these specific color-fast pigments are completely unknown to modern botany or chemistry. Did the artisans of the time possess a lost knowledge of local flora that has since gone extinct, or were these dyes themselves precious imports, the recipes for which were lost when a particular trade connection was severed? This fabric is a ghost in the spectrum, a remnant of a color palette that has vanished from the earth. Finally, a heavy woolen carpet woven for a nomadic chieftain presents a map not of lands but of the heavens. Its intricate patterns are not merely decorative, they chart the positions of constellations, the paths of planets, and even notable celestial events like comets. The wool itself is exceptionally durable, treated with a mixture of salt and plant tannins that repelled insects and preserved the fibers for generations. This carpet was a portable observatory, unrolled under the open sky to teach, to navigate, or to record astronomical knowledge in a permanent, tactile form. Who were the weavers who could translate the cosmos into knots and patterns, and what grand purpose did this stellar map serve under the vast, silent desert nights? These three textile treasures reveal that cloth was a canvas for the ancient world's greatest ambitions, weaving together art, science, and mystery into something you could literally hold in your hand. High on a temple wall, a stone bracket carved into the form of a mythical beast does more than just support the structure above. Its open mouth is perfectly positioned so that on the day of the summer solstice, a single shaft of sunlight passes directly through it, striking a specific point on the inner sanctum's floor. This was no decorative accident, it was precise celestial engineering. The builders calculated the angle and the path of the sun with astonishing accuracy, turning a load-bearing element into a cosmic calendar. For the merchants and pilgrims who gathered, this event would have been both a spiritual spectacle and a practical marker of the seasons, dictating the best times to begin long journeys or to settle annual accounts. This bracket was architecture in service of both heaven and commerce, a stone promised that the universe itself was aligned with the rhythms of trade. From this grand celestial alignment, we descend to a moment of profound human intimacy. A single brick pulled from the wall of a massive granary holds the clear, sharp fingerprints of the person who molded it. Pressed into the wet clay thousands of years ago, these ridges and walls are a direct physical connection to an individual laborer. The brick itself is perfectly formed, the granary a testament to a centralized, organized economy that stored surplus grain for trade. But these fingerprints are a reminder of the countless unnamed hands that built that economy. Who was this person, and what were they thinking as they pressed the clay into the wooden form, leaving a permanent, personal mark on a structure meant for impersonal commerce? This brick is a fossilized moment of human effort, a signature not of a king but of a creator, forever embedded in the architecture of exchange. Then, from the depths of the sea, comes a wooden beam that tells a darker story. Recovered from the wreck of a trading vessel, this massive timber was part of the ship's hull. Carved along its length are depictions of ferocious sea monsters, their bodies coiled around the wood as if protecting the ship from the terrors of the deep. These were not idle decorations, they were talismans. Each voyage was a gamble against storms, pirates, and the unknown. The shipwrights who carved these creatures were doing more than building a boat. They were arming it with spiritual protection, weaving myth directly into its skeleton. This beam is a record of the fear and hope that accompanied every journey, a plea for safe passage etched into the very framework that dared to cross the ocean. Together, these architectural artifacts capture the full spectrum of the ancient world. The stone bracket shows us a civilization that looked to the stars, the brick reminds us of the human hands that built it all, and the carved beam reveals the deep-seated fears they carried with them as they sent their wealth across the waves. A coin from the Deccan region bears the portrait of a king whose face appears on no other monument, in no chronicle, on no other coin. He stares out with a calm, authoritative gaze, his name lost to history. This was not a forgotten minor chieftain. The quality of the minting is superb, the silver pure. He ruled a kingdom significant enough to issue its own currency, yet he has vanished from every other record. Was his reign brutally short, his legacy deliberately erased by a rival, or does his solitary coin point to an entire dynasty that history has simply overlooked? This single piece of metal is a sovereign without a kingdom, a ghost of a king whose only remaining territory is the face of this coin. Then there is the punch-marked coin that defies the very system it represents. It carries the standard symbols of its issuing authority, but its weight is precisely half of the established monetary unit. It is not a forgery or a damaged piece, but an officially minted half unit, a denomination that does not appear in any economic edict or archaeological ledger. Why create a coin of such a specific, non-standard value? Was it a tax token for a particular kind of goods, a special payment for mercenaries, or an experimental currency that never caught on? This coin challenges our understanding of ancient economics, suggesting a level of financial nuance and localized negotiation that standard histories fail to capture. It was money that operated just outside the official rules. The greatest enigma, however, is not a single coin but an entire hoard of them. A clay pot filled with silver was unearthed, its contents not merely stored but deliberately arranged. The coins were stacked in alternating layers of different denominations, with specific types always placed face up and others face down, creating a deliberate pattern. This was not a random stash hidden in a panic, it was a message buried in metal. The sequence of the coins, their orientations, their very order seems to be a code. Was it a merchant's record of a complex transaction, a map to a larger treasure, or a ritual offering whose meaning is locked in its configuration? We can count the coins, we can identify their types, but we cannot read the story they were assembled to tell. These three numismatic puzzles, the king without a history, the coin that broke the standard, and the treasure that speaks in code, remind us that money was never just currency. It was a canvas for identity, a tool for complex systems, and sometimes a vessel for secrets meant to last millennia. A seed no larger than a grain of sand holds a timeline that defies logic. Carbon dated to an age that predates the civilization that traded it by thousands of years. This tiny, desiccated speck was found carefully stored in a merchant's pouch. It belonged to a species of grain that was thought to have been domesticated much later in history. How could a merchant be carrying a seed from a forgotten epoch? Was it a sacred relic, a sample of an ancient crop preserved by an isolated community? Or did the trader himself not know the profound antiquity of the simple seed in his possession? This organic oddity suggests that the trade route sometimes dealt in time itself, circulating biological heirlooms whose true stories were lost even to those who carried them. From this ancient seed, we turn to a bundle of spices that has refused to fade into history. Wrapped in a banana leaf and tied with fiber, this compact package of peppercorns, cardamom, and turmeric still releases a faint, unmistakable aroma when gently warmed. The preservation is so perfect that the essential oils within the spices have survived, sealed by some lost technique of packing and transport. This was not just a commodity, it was a sensory experience carried across continents, a promise of flavor and medicine that could transform a meal or heal an ailment in a distant land. The lingering scent is a ghost of 1,000 marketplaces, a direct, fragrant line to the bustling docks and caravanserais where the air itself was thick with the wealth of the world. But perhaps the most startling of these organic puzzles is a piece of amber, golden and clear, with a single insect trapped forever in its embrace. The creature is perfectly preserved, every delicate wing and segmented leg visible, but it is a species of beetle that is not native to the Indian subcontinent. Its closest relatives are found only in the dense rainforests of Southeast Asia. How did this foreign insect become encased in resin that was then traded into India? Does its presence indicate that the amber itself was an import, carrying a stowaway from another ecosystem? Or does it point to a climatic past where the ranges of these creatures were vastly different, rewritten by millennia of environmental change? This small, beautiful prison is a capsule from a lost world, challenging our maps of both geography and natural history. Together, the ancient seed, the fragrant spices, and the traveler insect reveal that the most enduring mysteries are not made of metal or stone, but of life itself, preserved against all odds to tell a story of a world in constant, surprising motion. A ceremonial mask carved from ivory, sandalwood, and lacquer is a map of Asia itself. Its components were sourced from different corners of the continent, the ivory from the south, the sandalwood from the west, and the vibrant red lacquer from the east. This was not a mask born of one culture, but a deliberate fusion, assembled by artisans who had access to a world of materials. Its purpose in rituals was likely transformative, allowing a priest or shaman to embody a deity that was itself a composite of distant lands and traditions. The mask's very existence suggests that the divine was not seen as a local phenomenon, but as a universal force best represented by a tapestry of resources gathered from the known world. Who was the spiritual figure this mask was meant to invoke, and what did it mean to worship a god made from the collective wealth of the trade routes? A stone fire altar, blackened from centuries of sacred flames, holds a metallic secret in its very residue. Scrapings from its base revealed traces of gold, copper, and tin, but the specific isotopic signatures of these metals match ore from mines located thousands of miles apart. This means that worshippers were not simply burning wood or incense, they were casting powdered metals from distant, legendary mines into their holy fires. The spiritual significance of this act is profound, a form of alchemy where the wealth of empires was ritually consumed as an offering, its essence transformed into smoke meant to carry prayers to the heavens. The logistics are equally baffling. How did they acquire and transport these specific, unrefined ores for such a purpose? This altar was not just a place of worship, it was a cosmic forge, a point where geology, commerce, and faith spectacularly converged. Then there is the ritual vessel, a bronze bowl that seems utterly ordinary until it is struck. The sound it produces is not a simple clang, but a clear, pure harmonic tone that hangs in the air, vibrating at a specific, resonant frequency. The alloy and the precise shape of the bowl were engineered to create this single, perfect note. In a crowded temple during a ceremony, the sound of this vessel would have cut through all other noise, a divine signal that commanded immediate attention and silence. Was this frequency considered the voice of a god, a sound that could purify a space, or a key to unlocking a specific state of meditation? The bowl's primary function was not to hold something, but to release something, a sonic key to the spiritual world. Its mystery locked not in its form, but in the beautiful, puzzling sound it was created to sing. A simple cooking pot found in a merchant's home refuses to follow the basic rules of physics. Its clay is mixed with a blend of crushed minerals and organic material, creating a composite that conducts heat with impossible evenness. When placed on a fire, the entire surface of the pot reaches the same temperature almost instantly, eliminating hot spots that would burn the food inside. No part of the vessel ever grows too hot to touch with a bare hand. How did ancient potters engineer such a perfect thermal conductor, and what secret recipe for clay allowed them to create a pot that cooked as if by magic? This was not a ritual object, but a tool for daily nourishment, representing a quiet, domestic revolution in a technology we still struggle to replicate today. From the kitchen, we move to the scribe's desk, where a writing stylus carved from a single piece of an unknown, jet-black metal presents a different kind of marvel. Its tip, used to inscribe letters onto wax tablets or soft palm leaves, shows no sign of wear, even after what would have been a lifetime of use. The metal does not scratch, dull, or deform. Modern analysis cannot identify its exact composition, revealing only that it is a complex, non-corrosive alloy that feels impossibly smooth and light in the hand. Was this the prized possession of a royal record keeper, a tool that never needed replacement, passing from one generation to the next? Its existence suggests a lost metallurgical technique, a formula for creating the perfect, eternal instrument for recording history itself. Then there is the game piece, a carved ivory figure of a horse and rider, discovered alone without a board or any other pieces to accompany it. The rules of its game are a complete mystery. The level of detail is extraordinary, suggesting each piece was significant, but we have no idea how it moved or what winning meant. Was it a strategic war game simulating cavalry movements, a race game of chance, or a spiritual allegory played on a now-vanished grid? This solitary piece is a fossil of leisure, a reminder that along with spices and scriptures, people carried their games. It speaks of caravans halting for the night, of merchants and guards huddled around a board, not in commerce, but in the universal human pursuit of play, the rules of which are now silent. A compass-like device found in a ship's cargo hold points unerringly to the north, yet it is constructed entirely from wood and carefully shaped pieces of non-magnetic stone. There is no metal in its construction, no hidden lodestone to explain its persistent alignment. The secret lies in its central chamber, which holds a mysterious, viscous fluid that seems to react to the Earth's magnetic field in a way modern science cannot replicate. Was this a sacred object, its guidance attributed to divine will rather than physical law, or does it represent a lost understanding of geomancy, a way of navigating by the planet's energy that we have since forgotten? This object refuses to be categorized, a functional tool that operates on principles that remain just beyond our grasp. The final object is a small stone sculpture of a human face, seemingly ordinary until you walk around it. Its expression shifts from serene contentment to profound sorrow, then to fierce determination, all without a single moving part. The artist achieved this miracle of perception through an incredibly sophisticated understanding of light and shadow, carving microscopic grooves and planes that catch the light differently from every vantage point. This was more than a statue, it was an emotional compass designed to reflect the inner state of the observer or to represent a deity whose mood was as changeable as the human heart. Why create such a complex and psychologically charged object? It stands as the ultimate metaphor for these 50 puzzling finds, a face that holds 50 different stories, each one true from its own perspective, yet none providing the complete picture. These 50 objects are not merely a collection of ancient anomalies. They are a chorus of unanswered questions, a testament to the boundless creativity and profound mystery of the civilizations that flourished along these routes. They remind us that history is not a solved puzzle, but a living, breathing narrative with pieces still missing, waiting for the next curious mind to find them. This wooden and stone compass challenges the very origins of navigation. Its design is deceptively simple, a disc of polished wood with a central well that holds a dark, viscous fluid, and a needle carved from a non-magnetic stone that floats upon it, always settling to point north. The materials themselves are the first puzzle, a selection of specific stones and woods known to have no magnetic properties whatsoever. How could it possibly work without a lodestone? One compelling hypothesis suggests the fluid itself was the key, a complex organic compound infused with metallic salts that reacted to the Earth's subtle magnetic field, creating a current that physically pushed or rotated the stone needle. Another theory posits the entire device was a mechanical marvel, relying on gyroscopic principles and the conservation of angular momentum as it was carried, its internal structure guiding the needle's alignment through motion rather than magnetism. We find echoes of this in other ancient cultures, from Chinese divination boards that used spoon-shaped lodestones on bronze plates to Norse sunstones said to locate the sun through cloud cover. But this Indian device stands alone in its complete rejection of magnetic materials. Was its guidance seen as a form of divine intervention, the invisible hand of a god directing the needle, or did its creators possess a lost branch of geomancy, a science of reading planetary energies we can no longer perceive? This object does not fit neatly into our historical narrative of technology, a functioning tool that operated on principles we have either forgotten or have yet to rediscover. This shape-shifting sculpture is a masterclass in perceptual engineering. The artist did not simply carve a face, they mapped the very play of light across a three-dimensional surface, using microscopic ridges and valleys invisible to the unaided eye. As you move, these subtle facets catch the light at different angles, casting shadows that deepen the eyes or tighten the lips, completely transforming the emotional expression. One expert described the technique as a form of emotional calculus in stone, a mathematical precision applied to the most human of qualities. The required skill is staggering, suggesting the sculptor was not just an artisan, but a scholar of optics and human psychology. What message was so important that it demanded such a complex and fluid medium? In the context of trade, this object becomes a powerful symbol of cultural exchange. A merchant carrying this sculpture was not just transporting a static idol, he was carrying a conversation. Its shifting face could represent the many identities a trader must adopt in foreign lands, the need for diplomacy, or the multifaceted nature of truth encountered on long journeys. Another scholar theorizes it was a teaching tool for navigating diverse cultures, demonstrating that perception is everything and that a single situation can be viewed from countless, equally valid perspectives. It taught empathy through stone. Perhaps its ultimate purpose was to embody a deity of commerce or travel, a god whose mood changed with the fortunes of the journey, offering solace in sorrow or stern resolve in the face of danger. This final object encapsulates the entire mystery of the trade routes, proving that the greatest treasures exchanged were not just spices or silks, but revolutionary ideas about art, perception, and our shared humanity. These objects did not simply appear in isolation, they traveled. The vast network of ancient Indian trade routes acted as a circulatory system, pumping these puzzles to the farthest corners of the known world. Overland, the Silk Road was not a single path but a sprawling web of trails, carrying goods from the heart of India through the rugged passes of the Hindu Kush and into the markets of Central Asia and Rome. Maritime routes were equally vital, with ships riding the monsoon winds from ports like Muziris on India's southwestern coast, their hulls filled with treasures bound for Roman Egypt and returning with goods from Southeast Asia and China. This constant, flowing exchange is the very reason we find a Roman coin stamped with a Tamil symbol in a southern Indian port, or a statue carved in a distinctly Indian style in the ruins of a Roman villa. The routes were not just highways for commerce, they were conduits for culture, technology, and belief, explaining how a single object could embody materials from 3 different continents, or how a surgical tool design could become standardized across thousands of miles. These networks connect the puzzles, showing that the mystery of an object's origin is often solved by tracing the path it walked. A compass-like device found in a shipwreck makes perfect sense when you know the vessel was sailing the open ocean, just as a ritual mask made from ivory, sandalwood, and lacquer becomes a map of the trade routes themselves. Its components gathered from distant lands connected only by the merchants who traveled between them. The routes are the missing context, the grand explanation for the seemingly impossible dispersal of these 50 enigmatic artifacts. These cultural blends are physically embedded in the objects themselves. A single ceremonial bowl might be cast in a shape familiar to Roman diners, yet its surface is etched with scenes from Indian epics, creating a vessel that served 2 worlds at once. This was not a simple case of copying a foreign design, but a deliberate fusion, an object born from conversation. The artisan who made it understood the aesthetic preferences of a distant market, yet infused the work with his own cultural stories, creating something entirely new for a buyer who valued both exoticism and narrative. These hybrids were the ultimate luxury goods, proof that their owner moved in international circles. They reveal an ancient world far more comfortable with cultural borrowing than we might assume, where identity was not a rigid border to be defended, but a fluid concept to be explored and enriched through contact. A sword hilt discovered in a Central Asian tomb perfectly illustrates this fusion. Its basic form is that of a Persian cavalry saber, designed for a specific fighting style from horseback. Yet the metal is inlaid with gold in a pattern of lotus flowers and vines, a motif unmistakably born in the workshops of India. The warrior who carried this weapon was not just armed with steel, he was making a statement. He was connecting his martial prowess to the spiritual and artistic traditions of a culture hundreds of miles away. This object tells us that technologies of war, like philosophies and fashions, were shared and adapted. The trade routes did not just move goods, they moved entire ways of life, and the most powerful individuals were those who could seamlessly weave these foreign threads into their own identity. Perhaps the most profound hybrids are those that are not immediately visible. A simple oil lamp, a common household item found across the Roman world, was unearthed in an Indian port city. Its form is purely Roman, but chemical analysis of the soot on its nozzle revealed it had burned not olive oil, but sesame oil, a fuel native to the Indian subcontinent. This humble object had been adopted into a new home, its function preserved but its very sustenance transformed to fit local resources. It was a quiet, everyday integration, a testament to how deeply these cultural exchanges penetrated, reaching beyond the royal courts and into the domestic lives of ordinary people. These blended artifacts are the true legacy of the trade routes, not as puzzles to be solved, but as dialogues to be heard. They show us that the most enduring exchanges were not of finished products, but of ideas, techniques, and tastes that were then remixed and reimagined, creating a shared heritage that still whispers to us from the dust. These surgical tools and complex clocks are more than just artifacts, they are challenges to our timeline. Their existence forces us to ask a difficult question. Were these objects the brilliant sparks of isolated genius, or were they the inevitable result of a world in constant, fertile conversation? The trade routes, it seems, acted as a catalyst for innovation. A brilliant design for a scalpel perfected in one city could be carried by a merchant to the next bustling port, where a local artisan might see it, improve upon its balance, and share that new version with a traveler heading inland. This was a global research and development network operating centuries before the concept even had a name. The standardization of those bronze medical instruments is a powerful clue. It suggests that successful techniques and the tools to perform them were not hoarded as secrets, but were actively disseminated, becoming a shared language of healing across cultures. The same principle applies to the intricate water clock with its variable gears. Such a device did not emerge from a vacuum. Its creation required a confluence of knowledge, astronomy to track the sun's path, metallurgy to cast the complex gears, and a societal need to measure time with such precision, likely driven by the demands of commerce and administration across a vast network. Trade did not just move goods, it moved problems, and with them the collective ingenuity to solve them. Yet for all this acceleration, the historical record is also filled with silence. Some of these puzzles may not stem from advanced knowledge, but from our own fundamental misinterpretation of their purpose. That strangely weighted Makara weight, for instance. We call it a flawed standard, but what if its fluctuating measure was its entire point? Perhaps it was a philosophical teaching aid, a physical demonstration of the inherent instability of all material things, used by a merchant to teach apprentices about the fluid nature of value itself. Or consider the non-magnetic wooden compass. We struggle to explain its mechanics, but perhaps its original users did not see it as a technological device at all. They may have viewed its movement as a form of divine guidance, its alignment with the north a sacred mystery, not a physical one to be dissected. This is the double-edged sword of studying the past. We are simultaneously piecing together a history of astonishing technological exchange, while also wrestling with the ghosts of knowledge systems so different from our own that we can barely recognize them as knowledge at all. The trade routes gifted us both the spark of innovation and the shadow of forgotten understanding. The very air and soil of India conspired to either protect or erase these artifacts. A delicate silk sari woven with shifting patterns could survive for 2,000 years perfectly intact because it was buried in the dry, sterile sands of the Thar Desert. The relentless aridity acted as a natural museum, halting the decay that would have swiftly consumed it in a more forgiving climate. Yet for every object saved by the desert, another was transformed by the coast. A bronze statue cast with exquisite detail was pulled from the humid, salt-laden earth of an ancient port city, its features softened and blurred by centuries of corrosion. The same sea air that filled the sails of merchant ships also ate away at their cargo, leaving behind ghostly impressions of what once was. These environmental conditions did not merely preserve or destroy, they actively rewrote the stories. A wooden tablet, its surface inscribed with a merchant's ledger, might be found in the dry highlands, its script as clear as the day it was written. That same tablet, if lost in the swampy mangrove forests of the coastline, would have returned to the mud within a generation, taking its financial secrets with it forever. This creates a profound bias in the archaeological record. We know so much about the cultures of the arid interior because their belongings endured, while our understanding of the vibrant coastal civilizations is fragmentary, pieced together from the few objects hardy enough to withstand the relentless damp. The climate itself becomes a silent curator, deciding which mysteries we are allowed to solve and which will remain forever obscured by rust and rot. Why did one community's sacred text survive on durable palm leaf while another's, written on perishable birch bark, vanished without a trace? The answer often lies not in their importance, but in the simple, brutal geography of their final resting place. Unlocking the secrets of these 50 objects required tools as advanced as the artifacts themselves. Carbon dating, a method of measuring the decay of radioactive carbon in organic materials, allowed researchers to place that ancient seed and the fragrant spice bundle in their proper millennia. But for objects of metal and stone, scientists turned to spectroscopy, shining a beam of light onto a surface and reading the unique signature of the reflected wavelengths to identify the exact elements in a bronze alloy or the mineral composition of a strange dye. This is how they discovered the unknown resins in Roman amphorae and the foreign ores in the fire altar's residue. Perhaps the most revealing technique has been three-dimensional imaging, which creates a perfect digital replica of an object, allowing experts to explore the microscopic carvings on a carnelian bead or the internal structure of the wooden compass without risking damage to the original. These are not just tools for dating, they are keys to a lost language of materials. The true power of these methods, however, emerges when they are applied not to a single puzzle but to an entire site. The excavation of the ancient port of Muziris in southern India is a perfect example. Here, archaeologists did not find one strange object but a layered cake of mysteries. In a single dig site, they uncovered Roman wine amphorae lying beside local black pottery, Tamil coins mingled with Roman denarii, and the foundations of a warehouse that held the very same type of surgical tools found 1,000 miles away. By using carbon dating on wooden structural beams and spectroscopic analysis on countless metal fragments, they could piece together a timeline of this bustling hub, proving it was a permanent, thriving international market, not just a seasonal stop. Another key site was Sirkap in ancient Taxila, a city at the crossroads of Indian, Persian, and Greek trade routes. Excavations there revealed a single hoard containing a statue of the Greek god Zeus, a Persian-style cylinder seal, and a medallion depicting a Hindu goddess, all found carefully placed together as if in a private collection of the world's beliefs. Three-dimensional imaging of the medallion revealed tool marks consistent with local craftsmanship, suggesting it was made specifically for a foreign buyer who wanted a piece of this spiritual crossroads. These layered discoveries are crucial. They tell us that these puzzling objects were not anomalies, they were the norm in these cosmopolitan centers. The methods do more than just date an artifact, they map a conversation, revealing how the world's greatest innovations and most profound mysteries were once gathered in a single, vibrant place, waiting for us to listen. Decoding the silent language of these objects is a battle against time itself. The inscriptions and symbols they carry are not just words, they are entire worldviews waiting to be heard, yet many resist every attempt at translation. This is the immense challenge of decipherment. Linguists do not simply look for a one-to-one match with a known language, they search for patterns, for the ghost of a grammar in the repetition of symbols. They look for what they call a Rosetta Stone moment, a single artifact that bears the same text in both an unknown script and a known one. For the ancient Indus Valley script found on those seals, that moment has never come. Despite thousands of inscribed objects, the code remains unbroken. The script is frustratingly short, with no lengthy texts to analyze, and it may represent a language family that has no living descendants, leaving no linguistic foothold for experts to grasp. Modern technology has joined the fight. Powerful computer programs can analyze these ancient symbols at a scale impossible for the human eye, searching for statistical patterns, syntactic structures, and the frequency of certain signs that might indicate they are nouns or verbs. These algorithms can process thousands of inscriptions in seconds, testing countless hypothetical languages against the mysterious symbols. Yet even with this digital firepower, some scripts refuse to yield. The secondary script on that copper plate grant, for instance, might be a cipher, a deliberate encoding meant to be read only by a select few. It could be a dialect so localized that it died with a single community, or it might not be a language at all, but a system of symbols representing concepts rather than sounds, a visual code without a spoken key. Why do some scripts remain locked after so much effort? Sometimes the culture that created them left too few examples. Other times, our own assumptions blind us. We might be trying to read a poetic, metaphorical text as a simple inventory list, or we may be missing the cultural context that gave the words their true meaning. The very act of decipherment is a conversation with the past, and we are still learning how to listen. History rarely remains confined to the textbooks, often spilling over into the realm of folklore. As these puzzling objects emerged from the earth, so too did stories to explain their impossible nature. A local legend in Gujarat speaks of the non-magnetic wooden compass, claiming it was not built by human hands but gifted by the sea god Varuna to a single, virtuous sailor. The tale says the device did not point north, but toward the heart's truest desire, guiding ships not to ports but to destiny. This myth, passed down for generations, reflects a deep-seated human need to attribute the inexplicable to divine will, a narrative that often complicates the scientific pursuit of a purely mechanical explanation. Scholars must then navigate not only the artifact's physical mystery, but also the layers of belief that have fossilized around it, sometimes obscuring its original, mundane purpose. Another powerful story haunts the diamond with the internal inscription. Villagers near its discovery site whisper that it is not a word inside, but a trapped demon, a malevolent spirit sealed within the crystal by a powerful sage. They believe the diamond brings misfortune to any who try to possess it, a classic curse narrative that inevitably influences its value and the willingness of locals to aid in its study. For researchers, such tales are more than just superstition, they are cultural data. The curse can be a metaphor for the object's resistance to understanding, or a folk memory of the very real dangers that might have surrounded its original trade, from treacherous mines to rival merchants. The ghost city mentioned on the solitary pillar has spawned its own rich mythology. Oral traditions describe it not as a forgotten metropolis, but as a celestial city, a place that descended from the heavens, traded with mortals for a single generation, and then vanished back into the sky, leaving only the stone pillar as proof of its visit. This legend transforms a historical puzzle into a foundational myth, a story a community tells about its own place in a grand, magical cosmos. For archaeologists, these stories are not dead ends, they are often signposts. The specific details of a local legend can contain kernels of truth, a distorted memory of a real event, a trade good, or a cultural contact that was so profound it could only be processed through the language of myth. The line between a cursed object and a misunderstood one is often as thin as the line between a legend and a lost history. Behind every one of these puzzling artifacts lay a powerful and sophisticated economic engine. Ancient India was not a land of isolated villages, but a vibrant hub of international commerce, its wealth built on a foundation of coveted goods and complex financial systems. The most famous exports were, of course, the spices that defined an era. Peppercorns from the Malabar coast were so valued in the Roman Empire that they were often used as collateral for loans, literally worth their weight in gold. Alongside pepper, merchants traded cinnamon from Sri Lanka, cardamom from the Western Ghats, and the fragrant sandalwood that was carved into sacred objects and cosmetics. But the trade was far more diverse than just spices. Fine cotton textiles, woven so delicately they were called woven wind, were shipped to Rome, while Indian steel, known for its flexibility and sharpness, was forged into legendary swords in Persia and beyond. Ivory, pearls, and precious stones like diamonds and sapphires filled the coffers of merchant ships, each item carrying the unique signature of its homeland to a waiting world. This was not a simple barter system. A sophisticated monetary economy facilitated the flow of goods. While Roman gold coins called aurei and silver denarii have been found in hoards across southern India, local kingdoms issued their own punch-marked silver coins. These were not minted with the portrait of a king, but stamped with a series of symbols, a standard of value recognized across vast networks. The very existence of these different currencies circulating together required a class of money changers and a shared understanding of value, a primitive but effective form of ancient global banking. Overseeing this immense commercial activity were the powerful merchant guilds known as shrenis. These were not just loose associations of traders, they were formal corporations with their own laws, their own militias to guard caravans, and the authority to strike their own coins. A guild of diamond traders could negotiate directly with a Roman magistrate, while a guild of pepper merchants could fund the construction of an entire temple, their wealth and influence shaping the political and cultural landscape. These guilds were the organizational backbone of the trade routes, the invisible hand that directed the flow of spices, textiles, and the 50 mysterious objects that continue to captivate us. They managed the quality, set the prices, and ensured that the treasures of India reached the farthest markets, leaving behind a trail of enigmatic artifacts that are, in their own way, the ultimate receipts of a forgotten global economy. The secrets of these objects are not given up easily. They must be coaxed out by the language of science itself. Modern laboratories have become the new frontier for understanding these ancient puzzles, employing tools that act as extensions of our own senses, revealing truths hidden for millennia. One of the most powerful of these is X-ray fluorescence, a technique that bombards a metal artifact with high-energy X-rays. The object responds by emitting its own unique fluorescent light, a signature that scientists can read to determine its exact elemental composition without so much as scratching the surface. This is how we learned that the rust-free iron blade was not a miracle, but a masterful alloy. Its metal mixed with specific, unknown elements that created a protective layer, a primitive stainless steel achieved through a recipe now lost to time. For the strangely colored cotton textiles, the analysis shifts to chromatography and mass spectrometry. These methods separate the complex chemical compounds within the ancient dyes, identifying each molecular ingredient. The results were startling, revealing organic compounds that do not match any known plant or mineral source from the historical record. This does not just deepen the mystery of the color, it fundamentally expands it, suggesting the ancient dyers had access to an entire botanical library of pigment sources that have since vanished from the earth, their vibrant hues a ghost of a lost ecosystem. When the puzzle is organic, like that ancient seed or the perfectly preserved spice bundle, science turns to the code of life itself. DNA analysis can extract minuscule genetic fragments from these remains, sequencing them to identify the exact species of plant. This can trace a peppercorn back to a specific valley in the Western Ghats or reveal that a bundle of grain, long thought to be a local crop, was actually an import from a distant continent. Yet sometimes, the answers these methods provide are more baffling than the original question. Analyzing the residues inside that sealed cosmetic jar revealed a complex mixture that included plant oils from Southeast Asia and mineral powders from the Himalayas, a recipe assembled from the farthest corners of the trade network for a purpose we can no longer name. The science does not always solve the puzzle, it often adds new, more intricate pieces, proving that the deeper we look into these objects, the more profound their stories become. The grand network of trade routes was more than just a system of trails and sea lanes. It was a stage for powerful individuals whose decisions echoed for centuries. Emperor Ashoka, one of India's most formidable rulers, transformed from a conqueror to a proponent of peace after witnessing the carnage of a brutal war. His profound change of heart led him to inscribe his new philosophy of non-violence and moral law on pillars and rocks across his vast empire and beyond, placing them along the very trade routes that connected his kingdom to the world. These edicts were not just royal proclamations, they were deliberate acts of policy, using the arteries of commerce to disseminate a revolutionary idea. A merchant traveling from the Indus Valley to the coast would encounter these pillars, their polished surfaces and clear script announcing a king's commitment to righteousness, encouraging safe passage and fair dealing for all. Ashoka's support for Buddhism also meant that missionaries and pilgrims traveled with official sanction, carrying not just relics and scriptures, but likely some of those very ritual objects like the multilingual relic casket that were designed to speak to a diverse audience. His reign created a safer, more ideologically charged environment for exchange, where the movement of puzzling artifacts was often underwritten by a royal desire for a moral universe. Another colossal figure, the Kushan Emperor Kanishka, presided over a sprawling empire that was a literal crossroads of cultures. His coinage is a perfect reflection of this, featuring a pantheon of deities from Greek, Zoroastrian, and Hindu traditions, sometimes all on the same coin. A single silver piece might bear the image of the Greek god Helios, the Iranian deity Mithra, and the Buddha, a monetary declaration of cosmopolitanism. It was under his patronage that the Gandhara school of art flourished, producing sculptures of the Buddha that blended classical Greek realism with Indian spiritual serenity. The serene Jain statue with its unknown symbols or the shifting emotional sculpture could easily be products of such a syncretic court, where artists were encouraged to fuse traditions and perhaps encode new meanings for a discerning international elite. Kanishka's policies of tolerance and patronage did not just allow for cultural blending, they actively commissioned it, turning his court and the trade routes it controlled into a factory for the very hybrid artifacts that now perplex us. These rulers were not distant figureheads, they were active participants in the mystery. When we hold a coin stamped with a forgotten king's face or a sculpture that merges two artistic worlds, we are not just holding an object, we are holding a fragment of a human ambition, a piece of a policy, a relic of a personality that once directed the flow of history itself. Their influence begs the question, how many of these 50 puzzles were not accidents of time, but the deliberate creations of kings and emperors who used the language of art and object to project their power and vision across the known world? Certain places along these ancient routes seem to radiate mystery from the very soil. The port of Muziris on India's southwestern coast was a legendary entry point where Roman ships docked to unload gold and wine, taking on priceless cargoes of pepper and gems. Excavations here have yielded a stunning jumble of cultures in a single layer of earth, finding Roman amphorae lying beside local cooking pots, Tamil coins mixed with Roman denarii, and those enigmatic surgical tools far from their presumed origin. Muziris was a permanent, roaring international market, a place where the entire known world converged, and its fertile ground for puzzles stems directly from this constant, churning exchange. Anything could arrive on the next tide, and anything could be lost or left behind, creating a time capsule of global interaction. Inland, the city of Taxila, situated in what is now Pakistan, served as a different kind of crossroads. It was a university town and a strategic hub where the routes from India, Persia, and Central Asia met. This intellectual and commercial ferment made Taxila a workshop for hybrid artifacts. Here, archaeologists have unearthed a single hoard containing a statue of the Greek god Zeus, a Persian-style cylinder seal, and a medallion of a Hindu goddess, all stored together as if in a private collection of the world's beliefs. The city was a melting pot where artisans from different traditions worked side by side, leading to the creation of objects that defy easy classification, like a sword hilt with a Persian shape inlaid with distinctly Indian gold lotus flowers. Why are these hubs so rich in enigmas? They were not just points of transaction but creative cauldrons. A strange object from a distant land would not simply be traded, it would be studied, copied, and reinterpreted. A local artisan in Taxila might see a Roman oil lamp and replicate its form but fire it with local clay, creating a new hybrid that was both familiar and foreign. This process of constant reinvention, fueled by the flow of people and ideas, guaranteed that these sites would produce a disproportionate number of artifacts that blend traditions in ways we are still learning to unravel. They are not merely repositories of lost goods, but the very factories where the ancient world's most compelling mysteries were forged. These religious institutions were not just spiritual sanctuaries, they were economic powerhouses. Buddhist monasteries, often strategically located along major trade routes like the Silk Road, offered more than just solace to weary merchants. They provided secure lodging, acted as banks for storing wealth, and even issued letters of credit that could be honored at a distant sister monastery. A traveling merchant could deposit his funds in one town and withdraw them hundreds of miles away, a system of trust that fueled commerce across continents. It is no surprise, then, that some of the most puzzling objects, like the multilingual relic casket, were likely commissioned by these very institutions. They were designed to appeal to a diverse, mobile population of believers and traders, serving both as objects of veneration and as tools for attracting patronage from every corner of the known world. The faith itself traveled on the backs of commerce, and the monasteries were its shrewd and capable managers. Hindu temples played an equally vital role, often controlling vast tracts of agricultural land and receiving generous donations of gold, jewels, and precious objects from merchants seeking divine favor for their ventures. The stunning crystal lingam, with its engineered play of light, was almost certainly a temple artifact. Its creation required immense resources and specialized knowledge, funded by the wealth that trade generated. Such an object was not merely for worship, it was a statement of a temple's prestige and power, a divine spectacle that drew pilgrims and their offerings, creating a self-sustaining cycle of spiritual and economic energy. The temple itself became a repository of wealth, a museum of the mysterious, safeguarding objects whose full purposes we are only now beginning to question. Did a merchant guild commission that peculiar sculpture with the shifting face as a gift to a temple, a symbol of the many identities they had to assume on their journeys? Was the water clock with its complex gears used by temple priests to precisely time rituals that were synchronized with the arrival of merchant caravans or celestial events important for navigation? The line between the spiritual and the commercial was often invisible. A ritual object could also be a unit of stored value. A sacred procession could double as a trade fair, and a prayer for safe passage was as practical as it was pious. The greatest mystery these religious objects present may not be their strange design, but our own modern insistence on separating the quest for profit from the search for the divine, when in the ancient world they were two currents flowing in the very same river. The sea and the desert each preserved their own unique secrets. Objects that traveled by ship were often compact, dense, and resilient, designed to survive the relentless humidity and violent storms of the ocean. A ship's hull was a floating vault of concentrated value, carrying sealed jars of unknown resins, bundles of potent spices, and intricate gold jewelry whose alloys resisted the corrosive salt air. The maritime mysteries are often puzzles of preservation and chemistry, like the non-magnetic wooden compass or the rust-free iron blade, objects whose survival itself is a testament to advanced material science developed specifically for long, perilous voyages. The vast, watery expanse acted as a filter, ensuring that only the most durable and valuable enigmas would ever reach the shore. In contrast, the overland routes, snaking through deserts and over mountain passes, favored a different kind of treasure. Here, the challenges were weight and bulk. A caravan could not easily transport heavy stone sculptures or fragile, massive storage jars. Instead, the Silk Road and its sister trails carried lighter, high-value mysteries. Intricate ivory combs, bolts of impossible silk, and small but potent ceremonial masks made from composite materials were the currency of the desert. The dry, sterile sands of the interior acted as a perfect natural museum, preserving delicate textiles and organic materials like the ancient seed and the fragrant spice bundle for millennia. While a shipwreck might yield a single, well-preserved hoard, an overland trade city reveals layers of accumulated, lighter-weight puzzles, each one a whisper from a different caravan that passed through. This fundamental difference in context explains why we find certain types of enigmas in one place and not another. The complex astrolabe, a tool for celestial navigation, is inherently a maritime object, its purpose tied directly to the open ocean. It would be useless on a well-marked desert trail. Conversely, the stone pillar proclaiming a lost city is an overland mystery rooted in the territory it was meant to govern. A merchant ship would have no reason to carry such a heavy, localized monument. The very nature of the journey shaped the artifact. A sea voyage required instruments of precision and objects of immense durability, while a land journey allowed for the transport of cultural luxuries whose value was in their artistry and rarity, not their brute strength. The next time you envision these ancient routes, remember the sea for its marvels of engineering and the desert for its whispers of lost stories, two different worlds connected by a shared hunger for exchange. Preserving these delicate puzzles is a race against decay itself. Each material presents its own unique battle, from the fragile silk that crumbles at a touch to the bronze that threatens to corrode into dust. Conservators work like surgeons in climate-controlled labs, using tools as fine as a human hair to clean centuries of grime from a carnelian bead's microscopic carvings. They stabilize fragile ivory with gentle consolidants and use specialized lasers to remove destructive salts from metal surfaces without damaging the original patina. It is a painstaking millimeter-by-millimeter process to halt time's relentless progress, yet every intervention raises a profound ethical question. Should a cracked sculpture be repaired to its presumed original glory, or should the damage be left as part of its authentic history? Does repainting a faded section of a mural honor the artist's intent, or does it erase the very passage of time that makes the object sacred? There are no easy answers, only a constant, careful negotiation between preserving an object's story and ensuring it survives to tell it at all. Modern technology offers powerful new allies in this fight. Three-dimensional scanning creates a perfect digital twin of an artifact, a backup that allows researchers to study it from every angle without risking the original to handling. Hyperspectral imaging can peer beneath layers of grime or overpainting to reveal the original colors and sketches hidden below, like uncovering a secret thought from the artist. Perhaps most importantly, non-invasive chemical analysis allows scientists to understand the exact composition of ancient alloys, dyes, and plasters, providing the blueprint for creating compatible modern materials for repairs. This is not just about saving objects from the past, it is about safeguarding the questions they carry into the future. How do we protect a mystery without solving it first? The greatest conservation challenge may be to ensure that these 50 puzzling artifacts remain as enigmatic for the next generation of explorers as they are for us today. These puzzling objects now rest under museum glass, transformed from ancient tools into public enigmas. Crowds gather not just to admire their beauty, but to confront their mysteries firsthand, peering at the microscopic carvings on a carnelian bead or circling the sculpture with a shifting face, hoping to catch the exact moment its expression changes. The museum label often reads simply, "Purpose unknown," an open invitation for every visitor to become a detective. Major exhibitions dedicated to the trade routes deliberately feature these artifacts at their heart, arranging the non-magnetic compass beside the rust-free blade and the multilingual relic casket, creating a physical conversation between puzzles that were once separated by continents. The goal is not to provide all the answers, but to make the scale of the questions tangible. You can stand in one room and see 50 different locks for which we have no keys, a silent challenge from the past that ignites the imagination. This public fascination has been amplified by the digital world. High-resolution, zoom-able photographs of the undeciphered seals are available online, allowing armchair archaeologists and professional linguists from every country to scrutinize the symbols from their own homes. Three-dimensional models of the wooden compass can be rotated and virtually disassembled, encouraging engineers and hobbyists to propose their own theories about its inner workings. Museums actively crowdsource ideas, hosting online forums where a jeweler might suggest a technique for the internal diamond inscription that a geologist had never considered, or where a sailor familiar with ocean currents could propose a new interpretation for the schematic map on the pottery shard. This collective intelligence is our modern version of the ancient trade network itself, a new global exchange of ideas racing along digital routes to solve the riddles of the old. The display case is no longer a final destination. It is a starting point, sending these 50 puzzles back out into the world, inviting a new generation of explorers to join the conversation. So how do we begin to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing? Historians and archaeologists have proposed a dazzling array of theories for these 50 objects, each one a window into how we interpret a silent past. For the silent Indus Valley seals, one dominant theory suggests they were purely administrative tools, stamps for marking bales of goods with a merchant's signature or a commodity's origin. Yet if that were true, why the obsession with mythical beasts like the unicorn? And why are they found in such distant, varied contexts from granaries to graves? A more controversial idea posits they were tokens in a vast, complex ritual system, their symbols representing deities or cosmic concepts, used not for trade but for spiritual protection on journeys. The evidence for this is circumstantial, resting on the seal's frequent discovery in what appear to be sacred spaces, but it captures the imagination, suggesting the first merchants saw their work as a dialogue with the divine. Then there is the wooden compass that points north without magnets. The mainstream scientific view insists there must be a natural, mechanical explanation we have yet to rediscover, perhaps involving that mysterious fluid and its reaction to the Earth's subtle magnetic field. Enthusiasts and alternate historians, however, propose a more radical idea that the device did not react to magnetism at all, but to ley lines or other terrestrial energies, a form of geomancy practiced by navigator priests. While this lacks physical proof, it speaks to a desire to see ancient knowledge not as primitive science, but as a different kind of understanding altogether, one we have simply lost the language to comprehend. The rust-free iron blade sparks its own fiery debates. Most archaeologists point to the unique alloy as a technological marvel, a lost recipe for passivation akin to the famous Damascus steel. They see it as the peak of a localized metallurgical tradition. A compelling, though contentious, counter-theory suggests the knowledge to create such a metal was not native, but was itself a trade secret, imported and refined along the very routes the blade traveled, only to be lost when those specific exchanges collapsed. This transforms the object from a local wonder into a relic of a globalized technological network, a secret so valuable it was worth carrying across the world. The diamond with the internal inscription remains the ultimate enigma. Gemologists are largely united in their skepticism, stating that a natural inscription inside a diamond is a geological impossibility, and the feature is likely an inclusion, a random crystal formation that merely resembles a word. Yet for those who hold the diamond, the resemblance is too perfect to be chance, leading to theories of lost civilizations with impossible technology, or more poetically, that it is a message from the earth itself, a natural wonder that simply defies our current models of the world. These competing theories are not just academic exercises, they are the lifeblood of the mystery. They force us to confront the limits of our knowledge and remind us that the most compelling story is often not the one with the most evidence, but the one that asks the most beautiful questions. Some artifacts stubbornly refuse to give up their secrets, standing as silent, defiant monuments to everything we do not know. The Indus Valley script is perhaps the most famous of these unyielding puzzles. Thousands of inscribed seals and tablets have been recovered, a vast body of writing that should be decipherable, yet the language remains a locked vault. Current research has moved from traditional linguistics to complex computational analysis. Teams are now feeding every known symbol into powerful algorithms, searching for a grammatical structure or a statistical pattern that the human brain has missed for over a century. They are essentially asking computers to dream in a lost language, hoping that artificial intelligence can detect a logic that has eluded us. A single, lengthy text could break the code, but until then, this script represents the ultimate cold case of the ancient world. Then there is the diamond with the word seemingly trapped inside its crystalline lattice. Mainstream science dismisses the idea of a natural inscription as a geological impossibility, attributing it to a unique internal flaw that merely resembles writing. Yet the debate is far from over. Gemologists are now using advanced three-dimensional tomography to map the inclusion structure at a microscopic level, searching for any evidence of tool marks or unnatural formation. If they find even a hint of human intervention, it would overturn our entire understanding of ancient lapidary technology. This tiny, brilliant stone carries a weight far beyond its carats, a single piece of evidence in a trial between the impossible and the merely unexplained. The non-magnetic wooden compass presents a different kind of challenge. Replicas have been built and tested, but none have successfully recreated its alleged navigational properties. The mystery of its fluid has led researchers to analyze ancient texts on alchemy and early chemistry, searching for recipes for organic compounds that could react to planetary forces. One current project involves creating synthetic versions of possible historical fluids, from fermented plant saps to metallic suspensions, and testing them in sensitive, magnetically shielded chambers. The goal is not just to prove how it worked, but to rediscover an entire branch of material science that flourished on the trade routes and then vanished. Each of these objects represents a frontier of active inquiry. New discoveries constantly reshape the landscape. The recent unearthing of a shipwreck with a previously unknown type of cargo can suddenly provide context for a strange resin found in an amphora 1,000 miles away. The identification of a lost city through satellite imagery might finally explain the ghost metropolis named on that solitary pillar. These enduring mysteries are not dead ends, they are open invitations. They remind us that the past is not a static book to be read, but a dynamic puzzle being reassembled in real time, with new pieces falling into place every year. These ancient mysteries have not been content to remain in the past, quietly fueling the creative fires of our modern world. The silent Indus Valley seals, with their undeciphered script, directly inspired the fictional languages and cryptic glyphs in blockbuster films about lost civilizations and alien visitors. A movie hero deciphering a code on a temple wall owes a debt to those small, square stones from Mohenjo-daro. The shifting face sculpture, a master of emotional perception, finds its echo in modern psychological thrillers where characters grapple with fractured identities and the unsettling idea that reality depends entirely on your point of view. Video game designers, in particular, have built entire worlds from these historical enigmas. Vast digital landscapes are filled with ruins that hide celestial calendars like the stone bracket, or navigational puzzles that mimic the non-magnetic wooden compass, challenging players to think with an ancient mindset to progress. These games are not just entertainment, they are interactive classrooms allowing millions to experience the thrill of archaeological discovery from their own homes. The very structure of a treasure hunt, a quest for a mythical city mentioned on a single pillar, is a story archetype born from these real historical gaps. We are drawn to these puzzles because they are not solved. They leave room for our own imagination to rush in, to write the missing chapters ourselves. A novelist can take the ghost of a king from a solitary coin and build an entire empire around him, giving him a name, a court, and a dramatic fate. A filmmaker can look at the rust-free iron blade and envision a forgotten super science, a technological peak that was lost to time. These artifacts provide a skeleton of fact, and we happily provide the flesh and blood of narrative, creating a feedback loop where history inspires fiction, and that fiction, in turn, inspires a new generation to look more closely at the past. The enduring power of these 50 objects lies not just in what they were, but in what they have become. A limitless wellspring for stories, a challenge to our creativity, and a timeless reminder that the greatest mysteries are the ones we have not yet finished solving. Your own perspective might be the key that finally unlocks one of these ancient riddles. For decades, the conversation around these artifacts has been confined to academic journals and museum labs, but now that dialogue is expanding. Every time someone posts a theory in the comments, a fresh pair of eyes examines a puzzle that has stumped experts for generations. A jeweler who works with precious stones might look at the diamond with the internal inscription and propose a forgotten casting technique that no archaeologist would ever consider. A sailor with a lifetime of experience navigating by the stars could examine the schematic map on the pottery shard and recognize a pattern of ocean currents rather than land routes. This collective brainstorming is more than just speculation. It is a form of crowdsourced archaeology where diverse life experiences collide with ancient mysteries to generate truly revolutionary ideas. Your unique background gives you a lens through which to view these objects that a specialist might not possess. Perhaps you are a woodworker and you have a theory about the specific grain of the wood used in that non-magnetic compass. Maybe you are a linguist who sees a pattern in the unknown script on the copper plate that reminds you of a rare dialect. These observations, no matter how unconventional, add new colors to the palette we are using to paint the past. The story of these 50 objects is not a closed book written by historians. It is an open scroll, waiting for new verses to be added by anyone willing to look closely and think deeply. What single artifact would you most want to investigate, and what unique knowledge do you possess that could help solve its mystery? The comments section has become a modern-day caravanserai, a digital meeting place where ideas are traded as freely as spices once were. By sharing your thoughts, you are not just leaving a message, you are joining a conversation that has been ongoing for millennia, adding your voice to the chorus of curiosity that keeps these ancient wonders alive. The ground beneath our feet holds more secrets than we have yet dared to excavate. With tools like ground-penetrating radar, we are no longer digging blindly, but sending silent pulses into the earth to read its hidden architecture. This technology can map entire buried cities, revealing the outlines of forgotten marketplaces and crumbled mansions without moving a single shovelful of soil. Imagine discovering a network of subterranean chambers directly beneath a known trade route, rooms that served not as tombs but as secure vaults for merchants to store their most valuable and mysterious goods. What could be hidden in such a place? Perhaps a collection of objects so strange they were deliberately kept from common view. Future excavations might uncover a sealed chest containing a complete set of those enigmatic game pieces, resting beside their long-lost board, finally allowing us to learn the rules of a game played for millennia. Or we might find a library of inscribed metal plates, their texts detailing the recipes for the unknown dyes and the rust-proof alloy, solving chemical mysteries that have lingered for centuries. The very soil of these ancient hubs is a layered archive, and we are only now learning how to read its index. Artificial intelligence offers another key, not to where to dig, but to how we understand what we find. An AI could process every known example of the undeciphered Indus Valley script in seconds, comparing it to every linguistic structure ever recorded, searching for patterns invisible to the human brain. It could analyze the chemical residue from 10,000 pottery shards and cross-reference them with global botanical databases, identifying a lost plant species that was the source of a legendary perfume. These technologies do not replace the archaeologist's intuition. They amplify it, turning a single researcher's question into a conversation with the entire sum of human knowledge. What new category of object might we unearth that we cannot even conceive of today? Perhaps we will find a device that makes the non-magnetic compass seem simple, an instrument that measured not location but time itself in a radically different way. Or maybe we will uncover an artifact crafted from a material we cannot identify, a composite that predates our current understanding of material science. The next wave of discoveries will not just add to our list of puzzles, it will fundamentally challenge our timeline of human innovation. The greatest treasure waiting on these ancient routes may not be gold or jewels, but a single object that rewrites our story from the ground up. These objects are not just relics, they are a mirror held up to our own world. The same human drive that propelled a merchant to carry a shifting silk across deserts now fuels our digital marketplaces, where ideas and innovations cross continents in the blink of an eye. The ancient trade routes were the internet of their time, a physical network connecting disparate cultures and creating a shared, global consciousness long before the term was ever coined. We see the same patterns of exchange today, the same fusion of traditions in our food, our fashion, and our art, proving that the impulse to connect and create something new from that contact is a fundamental part of who we are. The ingenuity behind the rust-free blade or the perfect cooking pot speaks to a timeless desire to solve problems, to push the boundaries of what is possible with the materials at hand. Our modern quest for lighter alloys and smarter materials is simply a continuation of that ancient conversation between human need and human creativity. These artifacts teach us that globalization is not a modern invention, but a very old, deeply human story. They remind us that the most valuable exports were never just spices or silk, but the intangible sparks of knowledge, faith, and artistic vision that traveled with them. What mysteries are we creating for the future? The objects we leave behind, from smartphones to satellites, will one day be puzzles for another civilization to unravel. They will ask why we made certain choices, what our symbols meant, and what we valued enough to send across the stars. The silent seals and the ghost cities caution us that even the most brilliant cultures can fade, their loudest proclamations reduced to a whisper. Yet the dancing girl and the child's toy offer a different, more hopeful lesson. They tell us that beauty, joy, and the simple human moments of grace and play are perhaps the most enduring treasures of all, capable of outlasting empires and speaking across the millennia with a clarity that defies any language. 50 puzzles scattered across continents, each a key to a lock we have yet to open. From the silent seals of the Indus Valley to the shifting face carved in stone, these artifacts are more than a collection of ancient anomalies. They form a single, sprawling narrative of a world in constant, brilliant conversation. These objects prove that the trade routes were not mere paths for commerce, but the circulatory system of an ancient global mind, pumping ideas, technologies, and beliefs to every corner of the known world. They reveal a past where a surgeon's scalpel could be standardized across thousands of miles, where a merchant's coin could bear the stamps of 3 empires, and where a child's toy could be engineered for pure delight. This is not the simple, linear history we often imagine. It is a complex, interconnected, and deeply human story of curiosity and connection. The true treasure carried on those routes was not the spice or the silk, but the spark of innovation and the wonder of cultural fusion. These 50 mysteries challenge us to look deeper, to question our assumptions, and to embrace the beautiful, unsettling truth that our past is far stranger and more wonderful than we have been told. Let these objects be your invitation. The next time you walk through a museum, read a history book, or even look at an old coin, remember that you are not just seeing an artifact. You are looking at a question. What story does it hold? What secret is it waiting to share? The exploration does not end here. It begins with your own curiosity. Go out and find the next puzzle and add your own voice to the greatest conversation of all, the one between the past and the future.